Gorney, this is the kind of news that, we expected to come sometime over the next few years, but it still feels like a very big surprise with Nick Saban announcing his retirement today. Um, First, let's talk about the immediate impact on recruiting. What do you see there? The 2024 class is pretty much signed with just Ryan Williams, the 5-star, and Quentin Reese, the linebacker, still unsigned. But what do you see as the immediate impact on recruiting in the 2024 class and going ahead to 2025?
Yeah, I think talking to a bunch of 2025 recruits already, there's like this inevitable feeling like this day was going to come, but it's still unbelievable that the greatest college football coach of all time is now stepping away from the game. I heard shocked. I heard I can't believe it. All those kinds of things. It will be interesting to see, though, if those players look elsewhere. And so I think we're going to get into a little bit of the coaching candidates here. I think it's going to be important to find someone quickly. But it's going to be a job that is impossible to replicate. Nick Saban, 7 national championships, 11 SEC championships, 10 team recruiting titles, including his first full recruiting class. So just an incredible career, an unbelievable finish. I credit him for going out nearly on top. I mean, taking this Alabama team to the college football playoff was one of his best coaching jobs in his entire career. So it will be interesting in 2025 who comes in and what happens and the culture that stays or doesn't stay, how things change, the feel around the program. But Ryan Williams in 2024 is the big fish. He will visit Auburn, where he's a legacy, and Texas this month. Those visits become much more interesting. The feel at the Under Armour game was that he was going to stick with Alabama. That has completely changed now. He is absolutely a 5-star wide receiver. I think in the discussion for the number 1 wide receiver in the class, he was that good at Under Armour. So that will be an interesting one. It will also be interesting to see if anybody tries to get out of their letter of intent. A lot of them went to go play for Nick Saban. I don't think that's any big secret. I don't suspect that of happening. But it wouldn't shock me in this age of transfer portal and NIL to see that happen. So I think there are a lot of moving pieces here. One on the roster, one in the transfer portal of players who are already there and want to get out. And there's no doubt that there will be teams going after that roster because it's loaded with so much talent. And then closing on Ryan Williams, getting him signed. That will be the responsibility of the new coaching staff. And then, moving forward, this 2025 class will be crucial as well.
Yeah, and certainly with any coaching change, who stays and who goes really depends on that next guy that comes in. So you mentioned in your article today some names of guys who may take that job. Of course, Dabo Swinney, Cristobal, Mike Norvell. Who do you think may be the most likely, if you're putting odds on it, to come in and be Alabama's next head coach?
Yeah. So the rumor that I had been hearing for about the last 6 months was that if Saban were to retire or when he were to retire, that Dan Lanning would be the number 1 target. Makes a lot of sense. He has connections to the South. He coached in the SEC. He's done a phenomenal job during his short time at Oregon. He's young. He's a defensive-minded coach. All of the things that seem to direct you to national championships, Dan Lanning has. Now, it will be interesting to see if he's the number 1 candidate for that job. But there are definitely other ones that will be mentioned. Dabo's an interesting one. I think one of the reasons why Nick Saban now at 72 years old has retired is because the game has basically changed. NIL and the transfer portal make everything different. Recruiting has completely changed in the last 2 or 3 years. And maybe Nick Saban just said, enough of this. I don't want to be I don't want parents coming in here and demanding $100,000. All of the things that recruiting has become in the last 2 or 3 years. Dabo might not be going down that road either. So I think that one we could probably dismiss. But Mario Cristobal is an interesting one. He has obvious connections to the school, but is at Miami, is from Miami, played at Miami, is trying to rebuild there. Steve Sarkisian is one that I had heard rumors years ago that, Nick Saban liked him so much as his offensive coordinator. There was a sense there that if Saban were to retire while Sark was still on staff, that he would have gotten the job. Does he leave Texas for Alabama? That's an interesting situation. There's certainly no bigger job, but Texas is a pretty big boy job as well. Mike Norvell is an interesting one. In less than 5 years, has completely rebuilt Florida State into a national contender, had an undefeated season. Where does he go from here with the Seminoles? In the ACC now, we'll see where they land long term. Would he be interesting? And then I think an outlier one that should be mentioned is Kalen DeBoer. Wins more than 90% of his games, has done it at very difficult places to win big. And then, the 2-year run at Washington is the best in program history. And he took the Huskies to the national championship. So there are certainly, and this is what I wrote, is that there are certainly plenty of names and qualified candidates. But we're talking about replacing not only one of the best, but the best recruiter and coach that has ever walked the college football sidelines. So I think Lanning leads the list, but there will be others that I think at least get whispers or mentions along the way.
Okay, well, there's going to be certainly a lot of news to come out of this as we go through the next few weeks and months in terms of his replacement and what that impact will be. So keep it locked to rivals.com for all the news surrounding this story. And we'll have everything there for you. Adam, thank you for your time.
All right. Thanks, Dave.